Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Culips. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Indiana. So today we have a new Real Talk lesson for you. And Real Talk is our series where we teach you practical, everyday English you can use in all sorts of everyday situations.
Yeah, exactly. And today we are going to talk about a very important topic, how to handle food allergies when you're dining out at a restaurant.
Yes, this might not be obvious as an everyday topic to everybody, but you might know somebody who's vegetarian or maybe has an allergy, like to nuts or shellfish. And so, especially when you're traveling, communicating these dietary needs is pretty important, I would think. So, we're going to listen to a conversation between a restaurant customer and a server. So the customer in this situation has some food allergies and is trying to tell the server about them when ordering. From this example, we're going to be able to learn how you can do this too. Then after we listen to the example, Andrew and I are going to go back through the conversation to explain some of the key expressions.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, we'll listen to this example in just a moment. But before we do, let me tell you about Culips membership. As a Culips member, you will get access to the helpful study guides and interactive transcripts and quizzes and all of our best learning materials for this episode and for all of our episodes in our library. And on top of that, you'll also get a bunch of other benefits and bonuses as well, such as our weekly speaking classes. We have 3 classes each and every week that Culips members can join to practice speaking English with me and with Indiana and our other host, Alina, as well. And also our great member community. These classes are super fun, and it's just a great way to be social and to practice your English speaking. So definitely check those out. But there's more as well. You get our Fluency Files series, which is member only. You get ad-free audio, so you don't have to listen to announcements and advertisements, just like this one here. And the list goes on and on. Just check out our website, culips.com, for all of the details and to sign up and become a member today. And as always, a huge, massive thanks to all of the members out there who support us. Guys, we couldn't do Culips without you, so thank you so much. Indiana, it's time to get started with our lesson, and let's do so by listening to our main example conversation for today between a waiter and a customer at a restaurant where the customer has some food allergies and they talk about those allergies with the server before making the order. So here we go. Let's listen in now. Are you ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes to look at the menu?
I think we're ready, but before I order, I need to let you know I have a severe nut allergy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for letting me know. I'll make a note of that for the kitchen. So what are you thinking of having?
I was looking at the pad thai. Does the sauce contain peanuts, or are they just used as a garnish?
Well, the sauce does use peanut oil, and then crushed peanuts are sprinkled on top.
Oh, okay. I'll have to steer clear of that then. I need to be completely sure there's no cross-contamination. How about the basil chicken? Also, I'm slightly lactose intolerant, so no dairy if possible.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Well, the basil chicken is totally nut-free, and it's also dairy-free. But I'll still tell the chef about your nut allergy so that they use separate pans and utensils.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you going the extra mile. Okay, I'll take the basil chicken then.
Absolutely. I'll get that started for you right away. Okay, so we just heard the example conversation between the server and the customer at, it sounded like a Thai restaurant, maybe Indiana. I'm not exactly sure. But The customer had a couple of allergies and some food restrictions. And guys, we're going to go through this example conversation now and explain some of the expressions that we heard in a bit more detail. And we'd like to recommend these expressions to you in the future. If you're ever in this kind of situation, these are great expressions to use to communicate about any food allergies or food restrictions. And yeah, let's get started at the top of the example conversation. So one phrase that is really important to know about is a severe allergy. A severe allergy. And Deanna, what does that mean? A severe allergy.
So I would use this adjective severe to emphasize that my allergy is not just bothersome or causes a little bit of itching or discomfort, but actually it's like quite dangerous, and I might need to seek medical attention or something as serious as that if I consumed something that I had a severe allergy to. So if you do have a severe allergy, you have an allergy that would cause a strong reaction like hives, or your throat starts to close up, you're having what is called anaphylactic shock, then yeah, you could describe this as a severe allergy. And this would really convey to the wait staff that, yeah, this is like really important. They need to make sure that the food does not come into contact with this allergen.
Yeah. So severe just means very, very serious. I think you could also say I have a deathly allergy. Could you say that? I have a deathly allergy to shellfish or something, meaning like if I eat this, I will die. But for people with those allergies, sometimes they have to be very, very clear, right? Like I can't eat this at all or else some negative thing will happen. So yeah, severe allergy.
So this is a great way to differentiate from mild intolerance. So that would just be maybe you get a little bit of an upset stomach if you have milk. You could say I'm lactose intolerant. That means, yeah, you're sensitive to milk, but it's not as serious as a severe allergy where you might have to go to the hospital.
Yeah, very good. So one of the next interesting phrases that we heard was when the server said, "I'll make note of that. I'll make note of that." So this is just a common customer service phrase that you might hear a server use in a restaurant, just meaning they're going to probably try to remember it in their brain, to be honest. We also have this phrase, make a mental note, right? It's just like, okay, I'm going to remember something. That's what make a mental note means. But some servers are old school, and sometimes you actually see them carrying a notepad and a pen, and they'll make a little note. And yeah, when I was a university student, I did have a part-time job as a server for a short time, not too long, but maybe 6 months or so. And I definitely relied on my pen and paper to make sure that I could take some notes and not forget anything so that I could give good customer service to my customers. So make a note of that just means, yeah, they're going to physically write down something or remember it in their mind.
That's right. I think I use that expression quite a lot. Okay. Another one that comes up in this conversation is steer clear. So after finding out the pad thai has peanuts in it, the customer says, "Oh, I'm going to have to steer clear of that." So in other words, this just means to avoid something, probably because it's dangerous or troubling. We could also use this expression like maybe in the office if your boss is in a bad mood, right? You say, "Hey, steer clear of the boss this morning," like just avoid him, right? Avoid her. So yeah, so you could see this in a lot of situations. Just another great idiomatic way to say avoid, to steer clear of something.
And this word steer, this is like the steering wheel in your car, right? It's talking about turning left or turning right when you're driving a vehicle. And so if you see a dangerous situation on the road, you're going to turn your steering wheel and avoid that dangerous situation so you don't get into an accident. So it's that kind of imagery. You're steering clear, you're turning to avoid some dangerous situation. So when the customer said, "I'll have to steer clear of the pad thai," it just means like there's too many peanuts in the pad thai, so they can't eat that dish. So it's a great idiom to use in this kind of situation. And now let's continue on. One of the other expressions that we heard was cross-contamination. Cross-contamination. The customer mentioned that they wanted to avoid cross-contamination. And this is a really important phrase, guys, especially when talking about allergies, because it's about food safety. And in the kitchen, the chefs are preparing tons of different dishes and they're using a lot of different utensils and knives and spoons and all of the different kitchen supplies that you use for cooking. And sometimes, maybe you're using a knife to chop some lettuce and then you'd use the same knife to chop some peanuts. And that could cause a big problem for somebody with an allergy to peanuts. Maybe even just a little piece of peanut could give them some medical complications or some medical issues. So cross-contamination refers to this. It's when a safe food accidentally touches an allergen. And this word, an allergen, is just some food that people are allergic to. So if the knife, for example, were to touch safe food, but also some food that people are allergic to, an allergen, then this would be cross-contamination. And this could happen with knives, it could happen with cutting boards. And so the kitchen staff really have to be aware of this. And when somebody does have a severe allergy, maybe they have to use a brand new, freshly washed cutting board and knife, etc., etc.
That's right. Or even a dedicated one. When I was working in food service in college, in the back when I was prepping food, we had dedicated boards for poultry, for chicken, and then vegetable only, right? Because you could also cross-contaminate with bacteria from raw meat. So yeah, you might even have some dedicated utensils or cutting boards, which means they're just used for that one purpose.
Yeah, and I would bet that most good restaurants do this.
Yeah, hopefully.
I hopefully it's standard practice, and hopefully people aren't chopping raw meat and vegetables on the same cutting board. I hope that they would be separating those, but you never know. Yeah. Anyways, that's what cross-contamination means. And Indiana, was there anything else that struck you as being interesting about this conversation?
Yeah, one other expression that I liked, I think I could see this a lot in maybe Google reviews for restaurants, like a glowing Google review, when the customer thanks the waiter because the waiter is being very attentive and listening and making these mental notes about the customer's allergies. She says, "I appreciate you going the extra mile." So going the extra mile, you might imagine if you're walking or running an extra mile, that's a lot of extra effort. And to go the extra mile in any part of your life is like just to go put in extra effort for the sake of, the job or the person that you're trying to help out, right? So because this waiter is being very attentive and making these notes about this person's allergies, you could say he's going the extra mile and putting an extra effort into his job as a waiter. So this is a really wonderful expression you could use. Yeah, I think I use it pretty often, and it's a really nice compliment to give somebody in the office. Like if a coworker does a favor for you, you could say, "Thanks for going the extra mile." Or yeah, in a service situation, if you're maybe giving a review.
Totally. Yeah. Anytime that somebody does something extra to help you out, to put in some extra effort or maybe some extra time to help you with whatever task in life. It could be at the office. It could be in your personal life. It could be customer service at a restaurant, at a hotel, at a store, anything like this. When somebody does some extra effort to help you, then we can say they're going the extra mile. And like you mentioned, Indiana, it's a really nice compliment if you say to somebody, "Oh, thank you for going the extra mile," or "I appreciate you going the extra mile." It's just a nice way to show that you really do appreciate that extra effort that they've done to help you out. So a great expression to memorize, and one that will put a smile on everybody's face who hears this or who receives this compliment. All right, so we're going to wrap up here soon, everyone. But before we do, we wanted to talk about some menu abbreviations. This word abbreviations, just to explain it briefly, is when we take a very long word or long phrase and then we chop it down just to a couple of letters. Like, what's a common abbreviation? Maybe most people are familiar with the BBC, which is the broadcaster from the UK, right? The British Broadcasting Corporation. But that's a really long phrase to say. So instead of saying British Broadcasting Corporation every time we want to talk about that broadcaster, we can just say BBC. So that's an example of an abbreviation. And in English-speaking countries, there are some important abbreviations that you want to know about when you go to a restaurant and you're looking in the menu. You'll often see little letters printed next to food items in a menu, and sometimes they can be confusing. What do these things mean? And Indiana, actually, we were recently speaking and you told me about a menu abbreviation that confused you. So sometimes even native speakers are like, what does this mean? I don't understand this abbreviation. Indiana, what was the one that was confusing to you? I think me too. It would have confused me if I had seen it.
Yeah, I saw EVOO on menus for years. And then it dawned on me, oh, extra virgin olive oil. Like it took a really long time for me to figure that one out.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm online as well, like I have this bad habit of browsing Reddit, and occasionally on Reddit, I'll see some abbreviations. People just make up these like internet abbreviations, and I'm like, what does that mean? I remember recently I was on an ice hockey Reddit thread, and what was it? It was WAG. They were talking about hockey players' WAGs. WAGs. And I was like, what does this mean? I have no idea. Indiana, could you even take a guess what WAG means? It was actually after the American team won the gold medal, and they were talking about the players celebrating with their families, and it used this phrase, WAG. It means wives and girlfriends.
Oh, you know what? I have heard that before. Oh,
Really?
I couldn't think of it. Yeah. But like really rarely. Yeah, it's like a sports abbreviation, like in the sports world, which is so strange that would be wives and girlfriends. Why do you need an abbreviation for that? Weird.
Anyways, that one confused me. So the point that we're trying to make here, guys, is if you see an abbreviation and you're like not immediately aware about what it is, then you're not alone, because sometimes this happens to us as well. Anyways,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to transition to some menu abbreviations, and maybe Indiana, I'll let you start. Have you seen any that you think our listeners should know about?
Yes. So particularly in the United States, I think this is a common food allergy. If you see GF, that means gluten-free. And gluten comes from wheat, like it's a part of wheat. So this would mean that the dish has no wheat or barley or rye or those kinds of grains in it, particularly if it has gluten. And I think there's a strangely high incidence of celiac disease in North America, which is a very extreme allergy to gluten. It's quite serious. Like sometimes you can't even really be in the same room as food that's being, wheat, gluten food that's being prepared. Like you can have that severe of a reaction. It's that severe that you can't be in the same room. So you will see this all over menus in the United States. GF, right? Gluten-free menu. There might even be a dedicated menu for gluten-free items. So if you're confused about what GF means, that just means there is no wheat or products with gluten in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'll even see products in a grocery store as well having GF on it, meaning gluten-free. So yeah, depending on your tolerance for gluten, if you can eat it, then you don't have to worry about this. But if you do have some intolerance to gluten, then you're definitely going to want to make sure that you see that GF. There's another one as well, similar. It is DF, and DF stands for dairy-free. So a lot of people these days have a lactose intolerance, meaning that they can't consume dairy products without some negative side effect, some kind of discomfort, digestive discomfort or something like this, or an allergy. And yeah, dairy-free just means there's no milk, there's no cheese, there's no butter, no cream, all of those products.
For sure. You often, at a cafe, you might ask for, what are your dairy-free milk options? And you might think, milk? Like that's inherently has dairy in it, but there's soy milk, almond milk, cashew milk, so that's really common to have a lot of different oat milk, a lot of different varieties on offer at cafes for dairy-free milk options.
Exactly.
Okay. So another one. So I am a vegetarian, and there are two very similar words in English, but they are distinct for dietary restrictions involving animal products. We have vegetarian and vegan. So vegetarian means no meat or fish, but it does possibly have eggs or cheese. There might be other animal byproducts in it, but no meat, no fish. And then vegan means no animal products or byproducts at all, like no gelatin, sometimes no honey even, because bees are involved in producing it, right? So vegan is absolutely no animal products. And on a menu, these both start with a V. So sometimes you might have to ask, but usually vegetarian would be marked with a V. And for vegan, that more restrictive one, you might see VE or VG, even though they both have those letters in them. You may see a little differentiation between V and VE or V and VG. So it might be worth asking the waiter, like in this scenario we saw earlier, what actually is vegan or vegetarian, but those are the common abbreviations that you would see for these particular food restrictions.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's one other kind of dietary style that maybe we should throw in here as well, which is pescatarian. Pescatarian. And if you're pescatarian, that means, I believe, Indiana, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe it means you eat no meat, but you're open to seafood and you might eat fish and other seafood. So there are these three kind of dietary styles. And pescatarian, I guess, being the most open, where you only stop eating meat. And then vegetarian, where you cut out meat and seafood. And then veganism. And if you're a vegan, then you cut out all animal products. And you're just for the fruits and the veggies and the beans and those kinds of natural things, those natural plant-based foods. All right. And then one more important abbreviation that we should talk about is NF. NF. Indiana, what does NF stand for when you see this written on the menu?
I believe it would be nut-free. Nut-free.
Yes, nut-free. And to be honest, a lot of times you'll see like a peanut which has a circle and a line across it, meaning that there's no nuts. So that's really common as well. And it just means it's nut-free. It's safe for people with these kind of nut or peanut allergies. However, guys, I would always recommend talking about it, right? Use the example conversation that we heard here today to have the confidence to speak with your server, because if you do have an allergy or some food restriction or some dietary issue, you're going to want to make sure that everything is clear. Don't just trust the abbreviations on the menu and think you're good to go. It's probably best to clarify it with the server before you order, just so that you can avoid any dangerous situations. But Indiana, I think this is going to bring us to the end of today's Real Talk lesson. So guys, we hope that this lesson will help you to feel more confident the next time you go out to eat in an English-speaking country.
Yes, and if you'd like to study with our interactive transcript, study guide, quiz, and speaking class for this episode, you can go ahead and sign up and become a member on culips.com.
That's right, everyone. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.
Bye, guys.